Hi, thanks for joining us. This is Pay Yourself First, TV Cogeco show about your financial success. My name's Jamie Krane. Thanks very much for joining us this week. Well, if you've been watching us for the last month or so, you know that we've been interviewing pythons from the Python's Pit. And Python's Pit is similar to other shows that we've seen where people come on and pitch their product idea to potential investors and look for real-life investors and mentors that are going to help them develop their brand. We've had two of them on so far, and we have another one who's with us today who is really a dynamic person and who's going to give us a little bit more insight into how you become successful when you start from nothing. So stay with us. It's going to be a great show. Hi, and thanks for staying with us. This is Pay Yourself First, TV Cogeco show about your financial success. My name's Jamie Krane, and today we're talking with Randy Pilon from Virox Technologies. Randy, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so word has it that you're going to be one of the pythons on the Python's Pit, soon to be coming up, I guess, here in Halton Region?
That's right, that's right. I think the first taping is March 23rd at the DeGroote School of Business.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How did they find you? How did you become involved with these guys?
Well, for some time I've been involved in the Sheridan College Institute, and I run something called Virox Future Forum, which is something that I guess I created and founded and fund. And once a year we take the top 100 grad students and we introduce them to guest speakers for a full day of interaction and learning. And there happened to be someone from the Rotary Club in the crowd that day. And they approached me sometime later and said we were coming up with this Python's Pit concept. What did I think of it? And I thought it was a brilliant idea. And
would you be interested in that?
Yeah, that's how it came about.
Rotary's a pretty amazing organization. There's 10 Rotary clubs here in Halton Region, and I know they've all got together and they're putting together this. There's a lot of work involved in putting this together too, I'm sure.
It's a remarkable amount of work, and I can't believe they're all volunteers for the amount of work they do. It's quite incredible. It's impressive.
Well, three cheers to the Rotary Club for what they do. Now, I want to, as we talked a little bit in the green room before the show, we've started interviewing entrepreneurs, and you really fit the bill for the people. I mean, had it been totally separate and not being involved with Python's Pit, I would have loved to have you on the show anyway, because your story is pretty unique. So I want to just dig a little bit into Randy and what makes Randy tick and where you started. So I know that you, we mentioned earlier that you went to Sheridan College.
I did.
For marketing. Right?
Yeah.
And I think my daughter's just graduating from Humber after for the marketing.
Wonderful.
Sort of the same kind of path.
Yeah.
So certainly she'd be willing to open to any tips. But so you started from there and you went right into corporate North America.
Right.
With Bausch & Lomb. And maybe you could just sort of expand on that. How did you get in there, first of all? So you left Sheridan. How did you get into Bausch & Lomb?
Well, I mean, the real interesting thing is how I even got into Sheridan. I mean, I remember all my friends were going to tours, university tours, what have you, and I got a call from a guidance counselor saying, you know, you haven't signed up for any tours and your marks aren't bad, but you're too late for university. How about college? And I didn't have the kind of parents that sat you down and said, gee, what do you want to do with your life? So I just thought I was going to take the summer off like most kids do. But anyway, this guidance counselor made me sign up for a college tour, and the only one available that week was Sheridan. And so I went and I signed up, and summer came to an end and I decided to go. And so it was really intriguing. I really enjoyed my experience there, and you know, 3 years later, left there with a marketing diploma, and joined a company that originally hired me on the sales side. So Bausch & Lomb is a world leader at the time in contact lenses. They invented the contact lens and ophthalmic pharmaceuticals, and many of your viewers might remember a brand of sunglasses called Ray-Ban. Ray-Ban was invented by Bausch & Lomb for the U.S. Army to protect the pilots against glare. And then, of course, when General MacArthur started wearing them, they became fashionable. So that's one of the consumer brands. So I worked my way through their consumer packaging division, which was Ray-Ban, and of course they had Bushnell binoculars, rifle scopes, telescopes, and eventually into the marketing area, and then eventually became a division manager, and sort of grew up in that organization. And they were quite entrepreneurial, where they would, if they saw that people were good, they would invest in you. So
that's a key right there.
Right.
And certainly you want to look for a company that recognizes talent and is not afraid to invest in that talent to advance them through the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was really good about them is that they would take the time and the effort and the money to manage and mentor you. And it's really cool in corporate when you get to learn on someone else's dime. So you learn how to do market planning, budget planning, strategic planning. And so I grew in that organization. I was there 14 years, and when I left, I was their vice president of Canada. And
That's
I was
a
on
pretty
their
comfortable point to be in at the company.
It was. I was 34 when they made me vice president, and of course I was on their global strategic planning team. So that was cool because there were only 17 of us in the world, that they would get together every quarter somewhere fancy like a castle in Scotland, and they'd have McKinsey Corp come in and consult with you for a week, and you'd emerge with all these strategic concepts for the next generation business. So it was cool. It was really a learning experience from not only from the consultants but from each other, people from all over the world.
Right. Well, we talked a little bit before the show again about your commitment to Sheridan College, and college versus university. And I'm sure that lots of people that are watching this show is, what direction should I go? And
Right.
And there's often the belief that the college track will give you the basic knowledge that you want. It's going to get you into
Yeah.
the workforce. You start earning money a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
Whereas the university track is going to be more money, but potentially you could be making a greater scale when you do complete that. But that's
Yeah.
almost becoming a fallacy today, right? And we were talking a little bit about that before
Yeah.
the show. So what are your thoughts
Well,
on that?
I probably have a bit of a controversial perspective on that. When I look back at my college career, I thought I learned a lot of things, but it was clear as I was emerging in the Bausch and Lomb ranks that unless you had a university degree, and by the late 80s, early 90s, I mean, if you didn't have an MBA, you were like an unwanted stepchild in that organization. So it became the fad to have these degrees. And now I think a university degree is the cost of entry to the workplace, let alone a master's degree. So the college system, I think, is not a bad place to start, because we eliminated grade 13, so you've got these kids at 17, some of them, having to make a decision what university to go to.
Right. We've
And
had this
40% of them, 40% of them are changing their major after year one in university. So they're confused. They're
It's
not
obvious
guided
they're too
right.
young to make that decision.
Right. So I think they're just ill prepared. So what's wrong with sending a 17, 18-year-old to a year of college in a general course where they think they might have interest, so that they can learn about a bigger institution, of course, but more importantly, not make those expensive mistakes that a lot of first-year university students are making.
Right.
And so I really think the college system has grown up famously. You look at Sheridan with that beautiful new business school at Square One. It's remarkable. And they're applying for university status. It'll be called Sheridan University, hopefully by 2016.
That's fantastic.
And they're building a second business school right across the street from the Square One campus.
So they're really they're putting their focus behind business then.
Yeah, evidently, and they've got the #1 media school in the world. It's one of the most difficult schools to get into if you want to do graphic design, if you want to do, Pixar is their #1 employer, I understand it.
Right. So Sheridan's becoming the place to be.
It
so
is.
you've put your support behind Sheridan. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, I know that I'm not going to talk about it specifically. You've been very generous to Sheridan through the years, and I know that I'm sure they've been very appreciative of what you've done.
Yeah.
But what direction would you like to see that go?
Well, again, I'm really pushing for growth in the business school sector and getting their profile up. Because, as I said earlier, when I had a diploma, other people had a degree. And now Sheridan's got more and more degree programs coming out, which I think puts, a bit of an equal footing. And then, what's wrong with, Price Waterhouse taking over, mentoring some of these top accounting students that come out of Sheridan? Yeah, they're not university grads, but they could be within a year with upgrades. Why not use that base of really, really skilled people coming out of the college system and handpick them? Why just do, tours at universities to hire? It should be like almost like, the farm team for hockey.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the NHL and you've got the farm. There's some good players there that just need to be mentored.
That makes a ton of sense. Well, you'd think there might be some savings to be had too, because people who come out of university are expecting this at that point, whereas
Yeah.
people coming out of the college level, they still have a lot to learn before they get there, and there may be some value.
And savings is one thing, but also it spirals into other things and pays you back over and over again, which is called loyalty. At Virox, the company I started 15 years ago now, this June, we've put people through anything from their college degree, university degree, to the PhD. We've got a PhD from University of Waterloo.
Fantastic.
We paid for the whole thing. When this guy came from Iran, he was 30 years old, brilliant scientist, he barely spoke English. Today, he's got 3 patents, 7 peer-reviewed documents, and a PhD from Waterloo.
First of all, that must be very fulfilling for you. I mean, I'm sure that's not why you do it, but certainly just to be able to have that impact on other people's lives through the vehicle that you've built over here must be very fulfilling.
It's incredibly fulfilling. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on educating our staff. We call it the Hotel California because people never leave. we've got this tenure at Virox. That's the first people we hired are still there. There's 48 of us now.
That speaks volumes, right?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That speaks volumes on the corporate culture. So how much of that do you think was influenced by your what you went through at Bosch & Lomb?
You know what? That's an exceptional question because a lot of it. I learned more how not to be from corporate life than how to be. I'll give you an example. One of the reasons I left Bosch & Lomb was I had turned down 2 international transfers in as many years. And I knew the third one was coming. And these large multinationals, they operated in 26 countries. These large multinationals, they don't really want to educate you and pay for you if you're going to stay in Canada because the market's too small. You need to be flexible for people that you want to keep that are good. So for example, this young PhD I told you about, he got married to a woman in the US. And he decided that, you know, gee, I don't want to leave the company, but I need to move to the US to be she's a doctor. And I said, that's okay, we'll set you up virtually. So we've got an office in New Jersey, and he works out of there, and he flies to Toronto for a week a month. And he's still running the R&D section of our lab. And he's incredibly happy. It's met his lifestyle needs, and it has impacted productivity at all, hasn't at all.
Right.
So you need to be flexible with your people and work with them. That's what life's about.
Technology sort of lends itself to that.
Absolutely.
But being able to recognize the situation, how do we keep this guy and keep him happy because he's a valuable asset, and you've got a lot of money and resources invested in him as well, so it's a mutual thing.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So that's important to me. So when I say you learn how not to be, you know, there's no way a big corporation would do that because they'd feel they're setting a precedent. Right. Whereas in a company like ours, you can handle things on an individual basis and do what's right for the company and right for that individual.
You know, I think we're probably going to get a lot of people dropping off their resumes at Virox after this show for sure. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go away. Be right back.
Help change poverty into possibility.
True colors, beautiful.
The United Way. Change starts here.
You're watching TV Cogeco, truly local television.
And we're back. Thanks very much for staying with us. We're chatting today with Randy Pilon from Virox Technologies, who is also going to be one of the Pythons on the upcoming Pythons pit here in Halton Region. Randy, welcome.
Thank you.
Been a great conversation so far. So we talked about how you ended up in corporate Canada, corporate America, international corporate world, I guess, with Bosch & Lomb. Now, how did you end up with Virox Technologies? What was the transition from one to the other?
Well, I guess I was always a bit of a frustrated entrepreneur. I was one of the sort of more creative guys in the Bosch & Lomb side, even though it was a company that prided itself on being a tier 1 professional company in the eye care space. I took the Ray-Ban sunglass concept and pushed it to a new level, which, you know, some people might say was the precursor to Sunglass Hut, which you see today, and, you know, taking glasses out of the opticians' hands and putting them into the fashion stores like the Bay at the time and Simpsons.
We know we had George Minigakis on the show.
Yes, I do, from LensCrafters. Yeah, great guy. So anyhow, I had always done little business plans on the side for entrepreneurs, and you'd take back sometimes shares in their company in lieu of cash because that's what they don't have. Well, I got known for that a little bit, and the Life Sciences Group of the Royal Bank contacted me through a lawyer to help a scientist who invented a new disinfectant, a new green, safer disinfectant. So I was intrigued by that and found out that it was peroxide based. And at Bausch & Lomb we had a very large peroxide business for contact lenses. So
Everybody knows what hydrogen peroxide is, sure.
right, right. So I understood the capabilities of peroxide for disinfection. So I met this guy several times, and months went by, and little meetings and discussions. He was a bit close to the vest with his information. And so we opened up we started a little small company and dumped the intellectual property into that, and I took back shares and wrote the business plan. And the business plan he wasn't terribly fond of. It was, remember this, 15 years ago, it was a plan based on open innovation and collaboration. So going to large companies and asking them to license your technology.
Like strategic alliances.
Absolutely, but back then the not invented here walls were very high. Today search and development has turned into research and development has turned into search and development.
Right.
Go and find out who's got the next best idea. I don't care if it's internal or external. That wasn't like that then. So the scientist, everything went quiet, but months later the lawyer contacted me again and said, have you ever thought of running your own business? Maybe we should buy this guy out. And I said, well, I'm making a lot of money here, and it's a big risk, but yeah, I've always thought of that, so let's do it. So
No kidding.
So
What a
I
huge
put a
decision that was to make at that time.
it was again, it was on the heels of me turning down 2 international transfers and hearing rumors that another one was coming. So I knew my days would be
So you
numbered.
didn't want to
No.
travel internationally or relocate internationally?
Yeah, our family was here, and we were quite comfortable with what we were
You have
doing and
kids?
living. And yeah, I do. I got two girls, 15 and 24, and a boy in the middle at 22.
So this time they were young.
They were little,
Yeah.
real little, and so at the end of the day, I just felt like the timing was right. So did a presentation at the Delta Meadowvale Hotel for about 70 people we invited, friends, contacts, what have you, and we got oversubscribed, and we raised, I think at that time it was close to $1.6 million, $1.7 million, and divided the piles of people that wanted to invest into strategic and passive, and went from there. And we started Virox Technologies in July 1998.
What a story. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's if we want to raise money, that's the best way to do it. Make sure you have a really compelling story.
Well, that's exactly right.
Get the right people out to see this
Yeah.
and go from there.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's similar to the Python's Pit thing.
It is.
Everybody going in there is hoping that the right person is going to see this who may
Yeah.
be able to open doors or mentor
Yeah.
them on how to open those doors. And,
Absolutely. And it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of naivety too, because I'll tell you, I was 36 years old at the time when I started Virox. And I put all my ducks in a row. I went to the bank and I got a second, what do you call it, not a second mortgage, a line of credit on the house. And I made sure that all the ducks were in a row, because they're going to give you whatever you want because you have this 14-year career and a letter saying you're vice president of a big company. And then I left the company. So they can't take it away.
Right.
So next thing you know, you've got to just make sure you're managing your cash flow, because we had to mortgage our house to invest in Virox.
So I know that knowing what you know now, the answer is you would probably do it all over again. But say let's move backwards.
Yeah.
About 6 or 7 or 8 years, 10 years before you're as successful as you are now, would you have done it again? Is there anything that came up that maybe was said, hey, you know what, maybe I just don't want to do this?
I would of course want the same outcome, but I would have changed several things along the way. I wouldn't have had such a diverse and large shareholder base. I would have narrowed it down. So we had 43 shareholders.
It could be a challenge to manage,
It's a
right?
huge challenge.
43 personalities.
Yes.
Now, mind you, not all of them wanted to be active, right? Some of them wanted to be passive, but
Yeah, it was the passive ones that were in my passive pile that became the most active.
are you serious?
Yeah, it was the guy that owns virtually nothing that, kept stopping in every 3 days, giving his friends a tour of the building, thinking he owns the place. It was, I've invested in this, and anyway, it was just, it got very distracting and annoying
So
at times.
did you eventually buy out?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a first tranche buyout. In Canada, of course, you get a capital gains exemption. Now it's 750 grand. Back then it was 500 grand. If you invest in a Canadian corporation,
Right.
private, for up to 2 years. So they had whatever increase they made, they got a tax-free return.
Right.
So when we recognized that threshold, we made an offer for a certain amount of money. We put out there saying we'd like to buy as many shares as possible. Here's how much money we have, and people subscribed. The one caveat was that you had to sell all, because you didn't want someone saying, I'll sell 90% and keep 10.
Right.
The objective was to reduce the shareholders. Right. So, and then the second tranche was 2008. Sorry, that was the final tranche, was 2008. So 2004, 2006, 2008. And in between there was a venture capitalist that we brought in, and they put in about $3 million at the time, and they were quite happy with their return when they left in 07.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so Virox, let's talk a little bit about accelerated hydrogen peroxide, because that's really what that is. So how does that, and I don't want to get, you don't want to get too technical, but
Yeah.
how does that vary from what we can buy in the store today, those little bottles?
Well, you know, any business that you want to get into is based on validated critical assumptions. You got to say a bunch of strategic statements, and if you believe them to be true, there could be a business there. And the overlying premise for our technology, which is in the infection prevention business, okay? So disinfecting hands, surfaces, and medical devices, is that if germs are going to continue to mutate and diseases are going to continue to spring up and cause very much concern for the community at large, then prevention is going to be the focus, because the cures aren't there anymore. So people will focus on prevention. And what have we seen in the last 15 years? That was a critical assumption we made in 1998, that everyone would be using disinfectants on their hands, surfaces, or devices. Device doesn't mean a medical device, it could be anything. You know, food grade cutting boards, whatever. So at the end of the day, prevention is where we focus on, and then if you move disinfectants into the public space, the safest products will prevail. People are going to want to use the safest product possible, and that's what this guy invented, was a hydrogen peroxide-based product. No secret that peroxide is good at disinfecting. His invention was to make it disinfect quicker, at low concentrations, and have it stable, which means when you typically add things to peroxide, it likes to fizz away.
Right.
Stability means it doesn't fizz away. And then 3% peroxide, for example, kills poliovirus in 75 minutes. He had 0.5% killing it in a minute.
Wow.
So he figured out how to add some food-grade acids to peroxide, add a chelating agent which stabilized it, so that you had a super concentrated effort to kill these bugs.
Wow, so bing,
Yeah.
the light bulb goes off.
Yeah.
Now, I know that there were some things I read in some of the information that I had when I do my research beforehand that, I mean, sometimes it's good timing too, but SARS came along.
SARS was validation.
And that really brought you guys validation. Well, validation is the perfect word I was looking for, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that was strategic too, because right at the beginning in 1998, we found out who the key opinion leaders were around the globe. And there were about 32 of them at that time. And I contacted them, met them, or wrote to them. One way or another, I got in touch with them. And I wanted them to know what I was working on. Because if you get 32 people and you read through your critical assumptions and you tell them what you're doing and ask them if it's relevant and they're all yawning, you know what? You might want to look at plan B. So I got to know all these people. We shared our science with them, because key influencers, opinion leaders, if it's no good or not important, if they haven't heard of it first. So if they're at a seminar and someone says, have you heard of this new peroxide, Mississauga, this new accelerated hydrogen peroxide? And they go, no. Everyone in the room there thinks it can't be any good.
That's right.
So they knew first. So when Health Canada called these key influencers, Dr. Alison McGeer, Dr. Syed Sattar from University of Ottawa, and they said, we got a problem here. We got to disinfect everything from the GO trains to all these public spaces. It's got to be safe. It's got to be effective and fast. What should we do? They went Virox.
Oh, we know somebody. By the way, we know somebody. So that's really, and we talk a lot on this show about networking, and that's really networking to the maximum, right? I mean, that's and it's really what drove the business.
Yeah, and this was networking before it was popular. This is 15 years ago.
Wow.
But we had to find out who they were, and we did. And to this day, to this very day, every quarter, they get a hand-delivered letter from me, courier, and any latest scientific information on our technology and what we're doing, so that they know first.
So you're adding relevancy to them, you're keeping them up to date, and
Absolutely.
there's a lot of value in that.
And there's that just constant interaction.
Wow. Well, this really proves that certainly good training from the beginning and a culture that you learned in corporate America or corporate Canada, I keep saying that, where it was a development from within, a great business plan, recognizing the fact that it was a great product, a great business plan to launch it, and having the cojones to step away from a nice cushy job and into the unknown has really paid off. Well, congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. It's been
That's
a good
why I
run.
love interviewing entrepreneurs, because it's inspirational for me, and I know it's inspirational for our viewers as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to talk about Python's Pit a little bit, because we're running out of time. First of all, what would you, and this might be a totally off-the-wall question, but what would you get out of that the most? I mean, what would you like to see that's the most self-fulfilling for you? And we're talking about Randy for a minute, not everybody else. But what would you take the most gratitude, I guess, or most benefit out of?
Well, to me, it's more, it's really important for me to give back. And that's why I do the thing at Sheridan. That's why I do the Virox Future Forum. And, I know how hard it was to start Virox. And I know what it's like to lay in bed at night, look at the ceiling and go, what the hell was I thinking? I've been there. And, there's no 1-800 helpline with the government. There's just audits.
Yeah.
That's all they care about.
Yeah.
But so to have that mentoring, so someone that's going to come up at Python's Pit, it's a university or college student with a great idea. It's not going to be dramatic and, there's no Kevin O'Leary that's going to yell at someone. It's going to be really, really good input from some seasoned people that are really looking to help someone.
Right.
Like the buzz I would get is if we find someone that has that, I like to call clear, compelling, and memorable message, where you want to take that next step, do due diligence, and then help them. And that's what's going to be important to me, is to give them as much help as they need. And I'm talking about beyond financially. I'm talking about when you get to be on their speed dial and they can ask you anytime, any question, and you can give them a perspective or find out who could.
Well, I know that for
That's
me,
what's useful.
I mean, I've learned through the School of Hard Knocks, as you have, and it would be nice to have had somebody there
Yeah.
who said, hold it, I've come across a situation like this in the past, and maybe I want to try to look at that from a different angle because you might get a different perspective.
That's right.
And how do you put a price on that?
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
Wow. Okay, so now can you tell us exactly when it's going to be? When is the big day down at...
It's March 23rd at the DeGroote School of Business, and there's tickets available. You go to pythonspit.ca, and you can get tickets. And I think it's going to be an interesting event. I hope they do it again.
It should be exciting. Do we know how many people they actually have going to be presenting products that day?
Oh, there's I think there were
ideas?
30 or 40 applications, and then they're going to screen them. And my understanding is there's going to be 6 to 8.
6 to 8.
Yeah.
It's a quality presentation.
That's right. Yeah, they're already vetted. So.
Now, the truth, you guys are actually putting up your own cash,
Yep.
right? I mean, and you have committed to putting up X amount of dollars during the course of this thing, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So what happens, I guess maybe it's not a fair question, what happens at the end when, geez, you haven't really seen anything that turned your crank, and all of a sudden the last guy comes up and he's going to get all the money thrown at him, or there's got to be some kind of a caveat in there that prevents that from happening?
I'd be surprised if I'd be surprised if there's nothing that's that
It would have to
compelling. Yeah, because they've all been screened, right?
It would have to be.
I'd be very surprised. I think we'll find someone to invest in, and that's just a minimum. I mean, we've committed to a minimum investment, but we can go way over that. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Randy, I'm looking forward to watching the show. I'm going to be there in the audience for sure,
Great.
cheering you guys on. So, Randy,
Like
thanks
it.
very much for having us on there. Coming on the show, we really appreciate you showing up.
Well, I
today.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Pay Yourself First, TV Cogeco show about your financial success. We'll be right back.
Don't be afraid.
Help brighten lives. Healthy people make strong communities.
True colors are beautiful.
The United Way. Change starts here.
You're watching TV Cogeco, truly local television.
And we're back. Thanks very much for staying with us. Well, Randy Pilon, Virox Technologies in Oakville, takes an idea that he learned that he just happened to be doing a business plan for somebody and had the opportunity to take this product and run with it and built a multinational corporation that's doing very successfully today. Certainly a great supporter of Sheridan College, and we really applaud him for that. He's been very successful, but he's not afraid to take some of that and plow it back into the community. Python's Pit, March 23rd down at the Ron Joyce Auditorium at DeGroote School of Business in Burlington. If you have an opportunity to go out there and be part of the studio audience, you're welcome to. You can buy your tickets at pythonspit.com. Thanks very much for tuning in today. My name again is Jamie Krane, and this has been Pay Yourself First, TV Cogeco show about your financial success. See you again next week.